Hello everyone, welcome to Kalam Main's answer writing program. The objective of this program is to remove the fear from the minds of the student while attempting a mains answer. Alright, so let us look at the question. The question has been framed on a recent current affairs issue. 1 or 2 days ago we had an article on Indo-China relationship, and this is a broad question which has been framed on Indo-China relationship. Alright. So before we directly jump into the question, let us look at certain prerequisites that are required for us to attempt a international relationship based question. So what are the prerequisites? So the first prerequisite is the usage of a diagram. So as much as possible and practicable, it is always good to make a diagram when you write a answer. Now when you write a 10 marker, you don't have that much of leeway to make a diagram, but in 15 markers it is a possibility. Alright, so make sure that you make a diagram if it is a 15 marker question, only if it is relevant, of course. Okay, the second thing is to use the names of the summits like Wuhan, like Xiamen, etc. Once you use these summits in your answer is going to look rich. So make sure that you use the recent summits that have taken place in the past 6 or 7 months or maybe 1 or 2 years and put it down in your answer. The third thing, which is used rarely but it is more or less relevant because there are only 1 or 2 articles related to international affairs. One is DPSP. You will find one of the articles in DPSP to be in relationship with international relations. Okay, and the second is the usage of Article 253. Now the relevance of Article 253 in this particular question is not much, but I want you to go home and look up these 2 articles and put them down in your notes. Alright, so these are the three things that you have to keep in mind when you write an international relationship based question. Okay, having seen the prerequisites, let us directly jump into the question. Alright, so the question is the following. It is a 10 marker question, by the way, which is to say you have 2 pages. So the question is proper understanding and combined working can make India and China to drive the Asian engine at 21st century best than ever before. So basically what it is trying to say is that these 2 countries have to resolve the conflicts so as to drive the Asian engine more than ever before. So it is in a manner of speaking hinting that these 2 economies drove the world engine or the Asian engine some time ago. So if you put up a reference or 2 about how India and China drove the Asian engine maybe some years ago, maybe 2 centuries before, that is going to be a value addition to an answer because it is going to be in sync with your answer. So let us look at how we write the answer. There are 3 parts of the answer. One is the introduction, the second is the body, and the third is the conclusion. Okay, so the introduction is going to be usually in 2 formats. One is the definitional approach. In this approach, you basically talk about how the relationship between India and China evolved and how the relationship is nurtured between these 2 countries. You could talk about that. It's a generalistic way of introducing your answer. And the second introduction is to talk about the current affairs, recent current affairs issue, if any, recent summit in which if the 2 leaders have met, something like that can be mentioned. Okay, so these 2 things can be used when you write an international affairs based answer. Remember, the key is to put this down below 2 lines, at maximum maybe 3 lines, so that you can immediately jump to the body of the question because that is ultimate thing that is going to fetch you marks. Alright, so in this particular question, it is basically telling you that proper understanding is required, first thing, and secondly, combined effort or combined working is also required. So these 2 things are required to push the Asian engine. That is what it is talking about. So it is always good to mimic the nature of the question. So what you do is you put up the side heading, proper understanding something, and then You also put up the second side heading, combined working. So under these you need to write points. So if you write 2 or 3 points under each of these subheadings, your answer is going to look complete because you have addressed each and every part of the answer, every part of the question, right? So basically you are trying to address the problems in Indo-China relationship, but your answer won't be complete obviously if you don't identify what the problems are. So before we start our body, we are going to move with the problems. We are going to list out the problems. You don't have to delve deep into them because you only have to talk about them briefly because it has not been asked. But if you don't write about it, it gives some kind of dissatisfaction in the minds of the examiner, and we don't want that. All right. So you talk about the problems and with these side headings, and then you immediately conclude in 2 lines, not more than that, because the question is 10 marker and I want you to notice that. All right. So with this framework in our mind, let us look at a sample answer written by one of our students and try to evaluate it. So this is basically a real-time handwritten answer. It is not a 1000-word synopsis or a 2000-word synopsis. So it is basically a real-time handwritten answer. So you'll know basically how much is it possible to write within 7 or 8 minutes. So let us look at the answer. See, he says that India and China are related by history, culture, religion, Buddhism. He mentioned Buddhism, that is good, economy, etc. In fact, prior to colonialism, they were drivers of Asian engine, contributing to 48% of the world economy. Historian Angus Madison. So this is a good way to introduce. He has mentioned the Buddhist connect. He has also mentioned the economic connect. All right. So in fact, if you look at the breakdown, 24% was from China, if I remember right. The rest 24 to 25% was from India, or the other way around. But whichever be the case, they used to contribute majorly to the world economy back then. All right, keep that in mind. So this is a good introduction. All right, so now let's move forward and see. Instead of writing down the problems, he is trying to create visibility. Visibility is being increased by drawing this diagram. The present problems, the same thing he could have written by putting up a side heading and mentioning the problems that are there, but he did this, so this answer is kind of looking neat. Okay, so let us look at the problems. Border conflicts, he has mentioned Doklam, Aksai-Chin, etc. He could have also mentioned CPEC corridor, and then the trade deficit greater than $50 billion. That is a fact that I am learning. Chinese support to Pakistan, this is also a problem area between India and China. And then dumping of Chinese goods in India, etc. So nice. So he has addressed the problems briefly. There might be more problems than these, but these are the problems that he has focused on, and these are sufficient to give us a glimpse that that there are existing problems, there are existing conflicts, or what you say, difficulties in the relationship between India and China. Now look at what he is doing. He is mimicking the question. Proper understanding is required for. And let's see what the next side heading is. It says combined working to drive the Asian engines. So basically he is trying to segregate his points under these 2 side headings so as to complete the answer. All right. So proper understanding is required for resolving conflicts over China-Pakistan economic corridor and Arunachal. Good. And then he said boost regional connectivity through One Belt One Road initiative, Project Sagarmala, etc. So resolving terrorist concerns by gathering consensus on UN 1267 resolution, that is a good mention. India's permanent membership for UNSC, that is also a good mention. So I'm satisfied by looking at the answer so far. Handling global issues like rising protectionism, Syrian crisis, Iran nuclear deal, Afghanistan peace process. So this looks like a content dense answer. So it is basically telling me that the student knows a lot. So I am willing to give the answer, but I want to be satisfied. I want to have a good ending. So look at what he has done next. So basically what he has done so far, he has told us the understanding that is required between the 2 countries so that they can drive the Asian engine. Now he is talking about the actual steps that these 2 countries have to take up to address the problems. So what are the steps? He has given 6 points. Nice. Mechanism to address trade imbalance. Okay. Accommodating India's concerns over RCEP. Okay. support to each other's security through SCO, RATS, etc. SCO is basically Shanghai Cooperation Organization. RATS is basically an anti-terror framework under the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Enhancing balanced trade, people-to-people connectivity, negotiating better oil import prices for Asia as a whole, because these two countries in Asia are going to consume a lot of what? Oil, and these two countries can actually have a bargaining power for the rest of the Asia as well. They can negotiate these deals, is what it is trying to tell us. Okay, investment in institutional mechanisms. China could invest in India's Skill India scheme. Okay, good. So basically he has given some concrete measures to improve the relationship between these two, and also to drive the Asian engine. See, so far I have he has addressed the question holistically. So in the conclusion, I want to see how these two things give rise to Asian rise. Okay, Asian engine कैसे drive कर रहा है is what I want to see. Alright, India and China thus could establish knowledge-based, skill-supported, technology-driven society to boost the Asian engine of 21st century. This is a decent conclusion. So he has mentioned Asian engine here, so I'm happy. So overall this answer looks above average to me, but the idea is to save some space and time maybe here, because the answer is already quite dense. You could write it little loosely and then move on to the next question. This is going to fetch you very good marks, but the idea is to get good marks in each and every question of your answer paper. Alright, so the discussion for the question is done. I want you all to go home, look at the points that you have gathered from this discussion, write an answer and upload it in the project. Alright, thank you.